Okay, we got a Patreon Q&A, Ian, which also might be a segment.
So we've got this Patreon Q&A, and you do that by going to the patreon.com.
You put another nickel in that Nickelodeon.
Yeah, patreon.com/CU podcast, insert coin, turn handle, and out comes content.
Put another nickel in that Nickelodeon. In third place, Pat's terrible Suncoast working experience. I brought up on the podcast about 3-4 years ago. I want to go through it more.
I think we've done it a couple times, but it's always nice to bring these back to new listeners.
It's always nice to bring up my horrific work experiences every once in a while. That was 26%. 27%. What would a CU podcast look like? And in first place, at 47%, this is why it's also going to be a segment. The worst game scams people have tried to pull on us. This is why it's also a Tales from the Game Store.
The Game Store.
So Kieran, rewind it and put the intro in before the Patreon.
It's a 2-in-1.
Go, Ian.
So this is an older tale, and I believe I've told this on the podcast before, but why not go over it again? Because it's going under 2 new headings this time.
Sure.
The worst scam anyone ever tried to pull on me was when I was working at the store, and it was a sale day. It was a Saturday. Now, we do 2 buy 2 get 1 free sales a year. And they
Pat never gets told about them.
And they are busy as shit. The most recent one we had was
a month ago?
The most recent one we had was about a month ago, and the Saturday was the biggest sales day Luna's ever had, which is nuts. So they're always busy. People do come in usually beforehand and try to it's a peach gummy, man.
You can smell it.
Yeah, you can smell the potters on there.
Sorry.
You can smell the potters.
It's still kind of malleable. Sorry, go.
So people will always try to get some credit for this, and that's fine. A lot of people who have done this before know that they should come in a few days beforehand to get their credit, trade their stuff in. And then there are people who come in on the day and they realize that they've kind of made a bad mistake by doing it, and they almost always they apologize when people come in to trade stuff in on like a sale day where it's crushed. They're like, oh, sorry to take up your time.
Sure.
Whatever, but we go through it, and it's usually not a huge amount. So we go through it and we give them the credit. So one day this shaggy bastard who I hate comes into the store.
Shaggy bastard.
Comes into the store. I don't like him at all.
People are going to call you a shaggy bastard, potentially.
That's fine. I don't give a shit. I am a shaggy bastard. But this guy was shaggy in that he had like an overgrown bowl cut kind of way. And yeah, it was just, I didn't like him. So he's always given me shit. He had always given me shit at the store prior. He's one of those guys who'll bring in like 50 fucking games, and then after you give him a credit amount, he'll be like, I need to know what you're giving me. Like, how much was this game?
You did tell us to me before. Yeah.
So this guy comes in Saturday around 11:30, so half an hour after we're open, when we're dealing with our first busiest point of the day usually, and drops a cardboard box with like literally about 150 N64 games on the table.
So he either has a big collection or goes to the swap meet or thrift stores, and holy shit.
And then he drops a box of NES games on the table.
Okay.
Probably about 60 of these.
So 200 games about.
Yeah. And he goes, I want to get store credit. And I said, okay. And he goes, I want to know what I'm getting for each of these. And I looked at him, I said, that's not happening. I said, they were mostly sports games in the N64 box. I was like, I can't, I said, we're having a sale. And like I said, it wasn't me just being like this to this guy right off the bat. I've had issues with the guy before.
So like he would always be troublesome, and then with this situation with a lot of people in there, you don't have the time to go through 200 fucking games.
I can't give him the exact quote for 200 games. I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to do my best to give him a fair price, but I'm tailing it in my head, and if he wants to know what a certain game is, if it's particularly rare, sure, I can probably tell him.
Sure.
But no, dude, I can't break down how many cents I'm giving you for each of these sports games.
I can't tell you how much Mike Piazza's Strike Zone's going to get you.
There was a lot of copies of that in there.
Why do I not own a copy of Mike Piazza Strike Zone? I love Mike Piazza. I should have one sealed.
So I start going through it, and I get a rough tally in my head for the N64 sports games, and then I start going through the NES games, and a little Samson. Obviously fake. Keep going through some of them.
That's sawing in the back. That's what you hear. The door's not closed.
Oh. Do you want me to close that?
I'm going to close it. You keep talking.
Okay. So he's like, there's some good stuff in there. That's what he says, like, for the NES stuff. Yeah, he's like, there's some good stuff in there for the NES stuff. And I was like, okay. So I go through all the N64 stuff, and then I start going through the NES stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is a bullshit little Samson. So I put it back in for a second, and I keep going through. Oh, here's a bullshit Stadium Events.
Oh, wow.
And I keep going through.
So the N64, you didn't notice anything, but now you're going through the NES.
Yeah. And then I go through the end of the NES, and oh, here's a bullshit Flintstones.
What? The trifecta of rare NES games that people will be looking for. Like, that's it.
Yep. So I said, hey, man, you can get the fuck out of here.
Just like that.
Just like that.
For people in the store?
Yeah. Oh, people were in the store, but I was pissed. And he goes, huh? What? And I said, bootleg, bootleg, bootleg. And he goes, oh, well, I was going to tell you. And I said, no, motherfucker. I said, it's your duty when you bring this stuff in. He's like, he said, I was going to tell you, babe. I didn't know if you guys took like repros on the side or whatever. And I was like, no, 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 no. I said, you brought all this in here on a sale day. And I showed them all. I went like that to all the people.
When I'm busy.
And like the people are watching this now. I said, when I'm busy, you tell me you need to know what I'm giving you for everything. And then you slide bootlegs into this box. Like, I'm just not going to see him.
Do you think he would have said something if you said...
No. And I said, then that's what I said. I said, the burden is on you to bring these in and be like, here are my games. By the way, these are repros. Do you guys take them? If
you had priced it, maybe if you said, if you went through mentally, this is worth nothing, 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 and gave him a total, do you think he would have said, wait a minute, I have 3 rare games in there? Or you think he would have just let it slide? You think he was just he wanted to see if he screwed up?
Like I said, I had previous encounters with this dude. I knew what he was doing.
So he tried something like this before?
No, not exactly, but he had been an asshole the whole time. It was obvious what he was trying to do.
He wanted to see if you slipped up. He might not have said, hey, that's a rare game, but if you gave him $1,000 for a couple of rare games, he would have taken it.
That's what I'm saying. If I had given him the money,
he wouldn't have said anything.
He wouldn't have said anything.
Oh, he really thinks that if you saw state events that you wouldn't have questioned it immediately?
I guess.
A game that's worth thousands of dollars?
So I was like, no. I said, that's not how it works. Because I did say that. I said, if I had decided to give you money for these, you wouldn't have said anything. I said, you're only telling me now because I'm calling you out. And I said, on top of that, these are absolutely miserable bootlegs. And he just like looked around and like someone in the store was like, oh, and like he just he grabbed up his shit and he was like, this is bullshit. I've given you tons of business, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you trade in bullshit for months. You trade in sports games for months so that you could come back and buy like the expensive game. He was never the type of person who spent any money in the store. It was always, what can I have for my absolute literal garbage?
And you're taking a lot of it.
And that's fine. But don't come in here and then, but then when I call you out, don't act like you've fucking put my kids through college, because you haven't. The most you've ever...
Do you know what my Wayne Gretzky hockey on N64 did for you?
Yeah, I mean, so I told him to get out. And that's the story. And then that was just like, I cannot believe that someone would do that. And like I said, I'm sure there are listeners who are going to be like, oh, maybe he didn't know. No,
you know if you're a game collector. You fucking know.
He's that kind of game collector.
Know. There's no way you'd have 3 games like that, that the real ones would be worth fucking, with the same as several $1,000s, if not 10 grand all combined. You don't throw them in a fucking box with 60 other fucking NES games.
Yeah, and hope I overlook them so that you can be like, oh, I need money for these, or if I'm going to give you money for them, then...
You think you were looking for, oh my God, there's 3 games here. I'm going to give you 5,000 in credit for these games. Like, he wanted you to do that.
When you bring in 200 shit games and you hide 3 decent ones in there, yeah, you're either hoping...
Decent. These are games that make your store a lot of money, not just decent.
So yeah, it was awful, and we banned him from the store.
He never came back. You ever get a real stadium events in the store?
Never had a real stadium events. Have had.
You had a real little Samson.
I've had a real little Samson, but long ago.
And a real Dinosaur Peak.
Real Dinosaur Peak, long ago, and I had. It was crazy. In like a 1-year period before anyone gave a shit about it, when it was still like a $40 game, I had 3 copies of Bonk's Adventure.
When no one gave a shit. Well, I mean, before the NES bug really hit a lot more people.
Yeah, exactly. People saw it and they're like, "Oh,
I wasn't there to see that. I would have saw that in 2008. Would have bought it.
we're talking more like
2005,
2007. Yeah, 2006, 2007. Like when I first started working there, we saw a bunch of them.
First got to San Diego. You got to tell the story how you got hired at Luna. I don't think you ever told me that. That's for a future one.
Yeah, some other time.
That sounds like I want the interaction with you and Trey. I want to pay to see that first interaction. All right, so that's Ian's tale from the game store. So for Pat, real quickly, I've never had someone really try to pull a scam on me directly like that, or try to pawn something off. I just have had resellers just lie to me when they buy stuff from my collection, which I find out later. You know, it's like, oh, you're a friend, come over. This was more, not at Castle Country. This was more, like 6 years ago. I have someone I'm friend with the swap meet comes over. It's like, oh yeah, I have an extra Die Hard in NES. Very uncommon game, borderline rare. I have these games. So it's like, you know what? I'll give it to you what I bought them for. This was when Pat was naive. This was when Pat was trying to make friends. Pat's nice. Pat wants to give people, a shot. So it's like, so then when I see the stuff being sold, months later, at the retail value, I just go, well, that's interesting. What the fuck? And you always hear like, well, I decided to get rid of some stuff. It's like, no, you always were going to get rid of it. You always were, which is fine. Just be honest about it. I'll sell you something if you're going to resell it. Just be honest. And it's happened again with a bigger seller a few years ago where I sold a bunch of I always talk about I have all these extra boxed NES games. I think I sold them like 30 of them. And it wasn't a huge deal at the time because he always would say to me, this is for my collection, like up front. Well, this is for my collection, and he used it as a bargaining tool, a bargaining chip. Where I'm like, well, I think I'm giving you a good deal. Well, come on, these are for my collection. So now you're going from negotiation tactic to lying. I know there's a lot of things you do negotiation and you fudge things and there's an art to it, but now you're just not being truthful. And that's what bothers me. So then when I go to a convention and first of all, when I see, wow, this person is selling 1,000 different games, which is fine. And then when I see, oh, there's my Zen Intergalactic Ninja in the box that I sold to you that you specifically said was going to be for your collection.
Maybe a change of heart.
So it's not illegal. I'm not saying that. It's just highly unethical in business negotiations to do that. That's all. I took it in stride. I didn't get pissed. I made a joke about it. I said, there's my Zen. Oh, there's my Puss in Boots in the box. Oh, there's my, because I knew that specifically those were my games. I could tell they were from how the boxes were.
So, I know that guy very well. I know the guy you're talking to very well.
And I actually like the guy.
I do too. I like him. He's nice. He's given me a lot of really good deals. He has. But I actually started noticing that too, because he would come into the store and be like, oh, I need this one for my collection. And I just started calling him out. I'm like, no, you don't. I'm going to see that at SoCal. I'm like, I know you're not buying this for your collection. And then he even said one time, he was like, well, everything I buy is like, I kind of want to keep it, but then I just decide, I sell everything. And I'm like,
no, it's a business. I understand it's a business. I'm not saying it's bad. It's a business. Just be fucking honest.
Just be honest about it, dude.
But at first I give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Pat's too nice in doing that because I've gotten,
and like
not burned, but
he's not a bad guy.
No, I know he's not. He's got my phone number.
Yeah.
No, he really knows who he is. Like, so yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I think he's got mine too. But yeah,
your phone number. So he's bought stuff at Luna to resell. You're saying?
Yes, he has my phone number to let me know when he gets PC Engine stuff. But he hasn't gotten PC Engine stuff in ages.
He buys stuff from you, but there's enough margin for him to resell stuff he buys at the store.
I think it's just like
stuff to sell,
little things or things that he can find, like
maybe something
that maybe he can contacts a little. I don't know.
Or maybe it's something to beef up your own game supply for when you're selling. Yeah. You don't want just all filler.
And Luna slips from time to time.
I don't know if I've ever caught Luna slipping. That $40 DuckTales in the box 11 years ago, whatever that was.
DuckTales 2.
Or those two for $40. That's how much the cart was worth. So you said at the time, well, we're not charging that much more for the box in America. Because at the time, no one really gave a shit.
Yeah, at that point in time, we hadn't really done it.
It
So-
was for my collection. It's still on the shelf over there.
that's fine.
I haven't sold it yet.
That's fine.
I think 10 years is the statute of limitations on saying it's for your collection. How about 5 years? 5 years is the stat. You need to give her 5 years. 5 years is when I can say, okay.
So I don't want to call him out by name, and next time I see him, I'll give him a hug. But don't ever sell him anything for his collection.
Oh, now I know. Now we make jokes about it because when I
yeah,
see
no,
my
I know.
stuff for sale,
I make the same.
now I
joke.
want my Zen Intergalactic Ninja back. At this point, I didn't have the manual, so I sold a lot of stuff I had the manual for.
Oh, that's why it wasn't for his collection. Oh, that explains it.
yeah, that's what it's.
Oh, no manual. Gotta get rid of
the
it.
Puss in Boots had a manual, I think.
I would.
I didn't sell my. Did I sell my Tom Sawyer? You want my Tom Sawyer in the box? I think I still have it.
I would take a Tom Sawyer and a Puss in Boots in the box.
I don't have the Puss in Boots anymore.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I'll find it.
Well, I might be selling this person some of my games.
Well, that's the other thing.
All for the collection.
We were kind of talking about it last night when
you know.
we put this up as a topic, and we're like, it looks like it's gonna win. He was like, well, I mean, he's probably gonna end up buying more of my shit.
Yeah, he's gonna
anyways.
buy like. He'll show up with like cash, and I'm like, all right, just take it.
Yep.
You know, it's 40 cents on the dollar. Just take it all, so Pat can have a reasonable life once he hit 40. You know, so what was it? That was our Patreon poll topic.
That was our Patreon poll.
/
also
Tales from the Game Store and Tales from Pat's game collecting buddies, I guess you can say.
I guess.
That hasn't happened recently. No one's tried to really scam me out of it. Oh, I will say this. People try
Next time you see him, you should quote where Andy pitched and be like, "Why you would fuck me on this?
Why you fuck me on this?
Thanks a lot."